Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I'm Tom.
It's our trend unit, and we're talking about one of my favorite things, which is food and also travel, really. So we're going to combine the two and talk about some sort of trend that is happening out there. If there's a trend, it means more and more people are getting excited about something. It's becoming more and more popular. So, this is about a restaurant that received a really high rating and a lot of really great reviews and was praised for being really tasty and having a great atmosphere. And, it was just one of those must-go-to places. And it turns out it's fake. So we're going to talk about how that happened and how somebody fooled a lot of people into believing that the Shed was a real restaurant.
Oh, you already spilled the beans. You let the cat out of the bag.
I did.
You've let people know that this is actually a fake restaurant.
It's great.
But, okay, we'll let you know ahead of time. But this person actually did a pretty good job to make it sound like this restaurant really exists.
Oh, yeah.
So, how did the Shed, or how did a Shed, become London's best restaurant? We'll find out as we read through the entire contents of our lesson right now.
In 2017, the travel website TripAdvisor ranked the Shed at Dulwich as London's #1 fine dining establishment. Over 100 reviews praised the Shed's cuisine, atmosphere, and other qualities. It was highly exclusive. It had no street address, and people could eat there by appointment only. It was also a hoax. The Shed was the creation of Uba Butler, a freelance writer who actually lived in the very Shed he was promoting. One of his previous jobs was writing fake TripAdvisor reviews for real restaurants, and this convinced Butler that he could make a fake restaurant. Butler devised a trendy-sounding concept, naming meals after moods. He also generated photos of fancy dishes using basic ingredients, household items, and even his own foot. Thus, the Shed was launched and began receiving good reviews, most of which were written by Butler's friends and family. It worked. The Shed became enormously popular. People called Butler asking for reservations, so he just claimed it was fully booked. Then things started getting ridiculous. The local council asked him if his restaurant could reopen in a newly developed area. An Australian production company wanted to feature it in commercials shown on planes. The Shed had become London's top restaurant. Eventually, Butler opened the Shed for one night. He got acquaintances to play waitstaff and other diners, and had a chef friend create gorgeous-looking dishes from cheap instant meals. They microwaved these and got a DJ to play music to cover the sound of the microwave. After this, Butler finally revealed the hoax. The story of the Shed holds an important lesson. The online world is full of misinformation, and we shouldn't take everything on the web at face value. We should always look at things in a critical way and do some fact-checking so we don't make fools of ourselves.
All right, let's begin talking about the contents of today's lesson. Now, if you have a small house behind your main house in the backyard that is made from cheaper materials, maybe from grass and things like that, that could be referred to as a shed. Usually a shed is used to store things that you use in your backyard, like your lawn cutter or your lawn mower, clippers for the trees and stuff like that, rakes and various tools. That's what would be stored in a shed, a very small structure that no one would actually want to live in. But we're going to ask this question, hey, how did a shed become London's best restaurant? Well, we're going to tell you how a shed became London's best restaurant.
It's a great story. It made me laugh. People are so gullible, Gullible, meaning it's easy to fool them because they never check on anything. I know a lot of people that read stuff or hear things in the news or in the newspaper and automatically just believe everything. Always check, guys. So this is a great lesson for everyone. So in 2017, there's a travel website I'm sure most of our listeners have been to called TripAdvisor. I go to it all the time when I'm planning a trip somewhere where I've never been before. So they ranked the restaurant that is actually called The Shed at Dulwich as London's #1 fine dining establishment. Now, if it's fine dining, guys, it's not fast food and it's not even, medium priced. It's very expensive. So if you want to eat at a fine dining establishment, you're going to be paying at least, and this is if you don't even drink wine or alcohol, you're going to be paying at least $100 per person, and sometimes it's as high as $500 per person. It's quite expensive.
Right. So again, the name of this restaurant is The Shed at Dulwich. I guess that's a very fancy neighborhood in London, and it's a fine dining establishment. And over 100 reviews praised The Shed's cuisine, atmosphere, and other qualities. Now, if you have a restaurant, you're probably going to describe your food as the cuisine, which is a fancy way of just saying food. And in Chinese, I believe you use the term liaoli or liaoli. I hope I said that right? Cuisine, this is a, Hakka cuisine restaurant. You kind of understand the idea there. So, yes, indeed, it had great cuisine. It had a great atmosphere. Of course, you like to have a good atmosphere when you go to a restaurant. Is it decorated nice? Is the lighting kind of soft and gentle? Is there music in the background? Are the people there having calm, civilized conversation? So, yeah, people praised the atmosphere there, the relaxing feeling of going there to eat, and also it received positive reviews for other qualities, maybe like clean bathrooms and friendly staff and things like that.
Yeah, I don't know. So it had some good qualities. It was also considered to be highly exclusive. If a place is exclusive, it means it doesn't let just everyone come in. Oh, no. So they exclude a lot of people. A lot of people would be excluded because they don't have the money to pay for a meal that's that expensive. Or maybe you aren't wearing a tie and a jacket. In most of the fine dining establishments, you have to be dressed up to even go in. And if you have sandals or flip-flops on, forget it. They would never let you in. So these fine dining establishments are considered exclusive. There are also other places that are exclusive, like clubs, nightclubs. They have those guys outside the door who look you over. And if they don't think you're cute enough or handsome enough, you're not going in. It's very exclusive. So, yeah, this restaurant was considered to be highly exclusive. And when that is the case, it means more people just want to go in.
Right, and it also had no street address, so it wasn't like number 123, Western Road or something like that. It didn't even have an address, and people could eat there only by appointment. So you needed to get an appointment to go there. Remember, in English, we have different ways of saying or of describing how you get together with people. You could have a doctor's appointment or a dentist's appointment. If a boy and girl are getting together to go see a movie, that would be a date. If you're going to get together with somebody to discuss business, then that would be a meeting. But here you need to have an appointment for the restaurant. I think you could also say you need to have a reservation. You need to talk to somebody in charge, and you need to be approved to eat there. You just can't walk in off the street and expect to be seated.
Yeah, and there's no way you could just stand outside in a line, because you don't have the street address. It's a secret. And so until you get an appointment or a reservation, you wouldn't even be given the information you need. So people are calling to see if they can get an appointment. And, unless they talk to other people, all they're hearing is, I couldn't get one. They were booked. They're sold out. It's solid. So it says in the next paragraph, it was also a hoax. I love how our author set up the whole situation or scenario and then lets us know it was a hoax. A hoax is something where people are fooled through deception. So people believe something is true, but all the while it's a lie or it's false or they're being set up to believe that something's true and it's not. So it was a hoax. Now, the shed was a creation of Uba Butler. It could be Oba. I'm not sure how he pronounces his name, but I said Uba Butler. This person is a freelance writer. If you're freelance, you don't work for a company. Instead, you work for yourself and you offer your services to different companies, and they hire you through probably a contract. So he was a freelance writer who actually lived in the very shed he was promoting. So there's no way it could have been a fine dining establishment if he actually lived there himself.
Yep, he actually lived in that shed. He lived in the shed that he was actually promoting. I don't know if that means he was living in a small, cheap London flat or apartment somewhere.
No. I think it is one of those one-level, cheaply made container kind of boxes. We have one in our backyard at home.
Okay.
And it's usually made out of really bad material. It could be cheap, thin metal or plastic. Anyway, it's not a very fancy place to live, that's for sure.
But he lived in that shed, and it was certainly not an exclusive restaurant. And one of his previous jobs was writing fake TripAdvisor reviews for real restaurants. And this convinced Butler that he could make a fake restaurant. Okay, so that's where he got the idea from. And we'll talk about that in just a couple of seconds. But right now, we're going to take a break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是 Anna。在2017年的时候，居然发生一件超夸张的事情。旅游网站呢，居然将某一个餐厅排名为伦敦第一的美食餐厅，可是它根本是假的。好，我们今天这个文章真的好看了。不过呢，我们设计成一个文艺选择，所以我们还是照例的来看一下选项。请特别注意一下 D 这个字 Cuisine 指的是美食佳肴，它是名词哦。后面的 Acquaintances 其实指的是你认识的人，或有时候会翻成点头之交。它跟 friend 朋友不一样哦。你的朋友 your friends 跟你是有 affection 有感情的，那么 acquaintance 只是你认识的人。最后面这个 J 呢Book 如果当动词就有预定餐桌，或者是不是餐桌，就是预定一个这个餐厅啊，或者是预定一个 hotel， 或者是预定机票，都可以用这个 book。如果它当动词就有预定的意思。好，所以我们来看一下，当时呢，这个是在2017年的时候 ，TripAdvisor 这个旅游网站。居然它评比排名第一的伦敦的某一个餐厅呢，它的名字叫做 The Shed 其实就是小屋或者是棚的意思。那么它的地点呢是在 Dulwich 这个地方，居然是全伦敦第一名的美食餐厅。而且当时呢有100则的 review， 100则的评论都说这个餐厅真的是独一无二啊，然后非常好。好，那么接下来呢，我们看到了这个网站列为第一名的 The Shed at Dulwich， 其实根本是一个 hoax， 是一个骗局耶。这个关键字出现在第二段第一句最后一个字 hoax， 因为其实这个餐厅是一个 freelance writer， 有一个自由作家 Uba Butler 他自己的 creation。而且其实他根本就是住在这个小屋里面。我们特别来看一下第二段第一句哦，这个句子有2个关系子句，而且都包在一起。先行词其实是 Uba Butler， 逗点之后同位于 a freelance writer。好，你看到 who 就知道要左括号咯，右括号其实本来应该在句尾的地方。可是其实里面的关系子句呢，还包着一个小的关系子句。先行词是 the very shed， 后面的 he 到句尾 he was promoting， 这里又有一个关系子句，而关系词 that 被省略掉了。特别注意是 that 哦，因为先行词有一个强调的字眼 very。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about The Shed. It was once rated London's #1 fine dining establishment. They had a really good setup for this restaurant, which we found out at the end it was just a hoax. It was a lie that somebody had set up. It was also highly exclusive. No one could get an appointment because they would call the number and they'd find out, oh, they were booked solid, and they were booked for months in advance. So there was no way to even get an appointment.
But eventually, probably somebody got skeptical and realized that, hey, I've talked to 100 people who tried to get a reservation at this place, and none of them got in. So, yeah, I would be very suspicious if that were the case.
Yeah, you'd think, huh?
You would think, but it seemed like he got away with this for a very long time.
There are no real journalists out there anymore. You just have to check the facts, right?
There's too much information out there, and journalists don't have time to, verify their sources and stuff like that. So they just have to decide whether they think it's true or not. And it ended up being a hoax, which, of course, is something that was fake. For example, a lot of people think the Apollo moon landing was a hoax, that the United States government just made that information all up and just to show the astronauts inside a studio and stuff like that, that it was a hoax. But again, this is all the work of Uba Butler, and one of his previous jobs was writing fake TripAdvisor reviews for real restaurants. Is TripAdvisor the web platform that's got kind of like the owl icon on it?
Yeah.
Is that the one? Okay,
yeah.
It's got like an owl there.
I think.
And if you want to find yourself a good restaurant, you go to TripAdvisor because people write reviews and stuff like that. And he used to write fake reviews, which happens a lot, and this convinced him that he could make a fake restaurant. Gee, if I can write these fake reviews for these restaurants and say this restaurant is really, really good, even though I've never been there before, or I could say this one's really, really bad and I actually thought it was good, well, maybe I could actually make up a whole restaurant and people would believe it.
Yeah, one of the things he had to do, of course, was to devise a trendy-sounding concept. Devise is to think up or create something in your mind. If it's trendy-sounding, it means it's really hot right now. It's very popular out there in the world. A concept is just your idea of what a cool restaurant would be. We've had trendy concepts come and go. For a while there, everything was green, all about the environment. Or everything's barbecued. It could be whatever, but it's just popular for a while. And so then he came up with this idea. This was his concept, naming meals after moods. So you would never name like a steak, a 12-ounce sirloin steak. No, you would name it after a mood, like ready to eat and dine for some beef. I don't know. So he would come up with crazy names for his dishes. He also generated or produced, that's another word for generated, photos of fancy dishes using very basic ingredients. Ingredients that probably didn't cost very much. Ingredients are the things that you put in a dish. For cookies, you would need flour, sugar, eggs, things like that. Those are the ingredients.
And he'd also use household items. I'm not sure what he would have used, maybe plants or something, or...
No. He means the way he cooks it. So maybe a toaster, a frying pan. Here he actually used a microwave.
Now, how did he even use his own foot in those pictures, though? That's what I can't imagine.
I don't know. It sounds terrible.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to see the pictures to figure out exactly what he was doing. It sounds like a very creative and imaginative guy. Thus, or as a result, The Shed was launched and began receiving good reviews, most of which were written by Butler's friends and family. So again, it's totally fake, and then he has his friends and relatives and classmates or whatever write these reviews for it. And of course, he told them to write good reviews and, write some kind of creative messages and describe the food so they don't sound all the same. And of course, all those friends and relatives had to swear to secrecy.
I know.
They probably had to say, don't let people know that this is all fake.
I was just going to say that, Tom. He would have to really trust the people he asked to do this because this hoax went on for a long time. So it worked. All of his little tricks worked, and The Shed became enormously popular Enormous just means really, really big, right? So if you need an adverb to change a noun or a verb or even another adjective, you add that ly. So enormously or very, very, very popular.Extremely
popular, indeed. And yes, his idea worked. It was successful to set up this fake restaurant, and people bought it. They believed it. And people called Butler asking for reservations. So he just claimed it was fully booked. So again, if you want to make sure you can go to a restaurant to eat, you might want to make a reservation. So you call and you say, I'd like to make a reservation for Thursday night at 10 p.m. How many people are in your party? There are 6 of us. Okay, so I will reserve a table for 6 people on Thursday night. So you've made a reservation. That's the noun, and to reserve is the verb. I'd like to reserve a table.
And for some reason, we use party as a measure word. A party of 5. It doesn't mean we're having a party. It just means you have a group of 5 people. So, yeah, party of 5. Or if you are at the restaurant that you made the reservation at previously,they'll probably say a last name like mine's Buckley. Buckley, party of 6. And I have, 6 people in my group. So pretty funny. He would just, again, claim that he was fully booked and they couldn't make a reservation. But then things started getting ridiculous. I thought they were already ridiculous. But the local council, that's a business council that your local government will have sometimes, they asked him if his restaurant could reopen in a newly developed area. Of course, they wanted to get foot traffic or more people going to that area. So if they could put a really popular restaurant there, it would help them.
And also, an Australian production company wanted to feature it in commercials shown on planes. So yes, this production company down under wanted to show this restaurant in commercials that they would show in their in-flight program. And the Shed had become London's top restaurant, even though it did not exist. Now, here in the next paragraph it says, eventually Butler opened the Shed for one night. He got acquaintances to play waiting staff in other diners and had a chef friend create gorgeous-looking dishes from cheap instant meals. Something's gorgeous when it's very, very attractive. You can describe, of course, a beautiful woman as being gorgeous, especially if she has a lot of class.
Now, these are really cheap instant meals. The ingredients he would use were just things like instant noodles or meals you could buy in the grocery store that come prepackaged. They would then microwave these. So he used a microwave oven, which chefs, of course, would never use. They think that's awful. He also got a DJ to play music. He wanted to cover the sound of the microwave while it was cooking. And after this, Butler finally revealed the hoax. So the story of the Shed holds an important lesson. And things in history usually do have some sort of lesson we can all learn from. That is that the online world, it's full of misinformation, things you shouldn't believe, and we shouldn't take everything on the web at face value, meaning if you read it doesn't mean it's true. You should probably check it out. And these days, you need to check everything out. We should always look at things in a critical way. Just use some common sense, guys. I mean, sometimes I believe common sense no longer exists. And do some fact-checking. So we don't make fools of ourselves. What does that mean, Tom?
Well, it just means you do something and you're very, very embarrassed because you look really stupid.
Yeah.
And yeah, if you write a review for this restaurant and you never actually went there, you might indeed make a fool of yourself for believing that it really existed. And all of us, of course, don't want to look stupid. We want to look smart, and we don't want to make a fool of ourselves. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. It's time now to listen to our Chinese teacher.
那后来呢 Butler 就设计了一个很时髦的概念啦，他就弄了一些新型名词菜肴啦，弄了很多的精美的照片啦，然后餐厅这样开幕，有很多的 good reviews， 不过大部分呢都是 Butler 他的朋友跟家人撰写的。同样在这一段第6句的地方特别注意破折号，破折号通常用来说明解释，破折号之后的 most of which 这里要整个左右括号起来，一直到句尾的地方。当你看到 which 的时候，就知道它是一个关代。其实关代的关就是关系，这个关系就是连接的关系，其实就等于 and。代名词 代名词是代替什么呢？当然是先行词 good reviews。所以如果你不用关系子句，这句话变成破折号 and most of them 就指的是 good reviews 先行词。好，那后来就开张啦，然后呢大受欢迎，事情整个变得荒谬了，因为大家都订不到。当地的议会还问他是不是要找个地方重新开张，还有澳洲的制作公司呢，想要在飞机上播放的广告里面特别介绍这家餐厅。我们看一下第3段后面第5句的地方，这边出现一个关系子句哦。先行词就是第7格的 commercials 广告，后面的 shown 到 planes 这地方可以左右括号，省略的是 which 或者是 that 跟 be 动词的 are。 好，到最后呢 Butler 终于硬要求开张了一个晚上，所以他怎么做呢？就找一些认识的人当服务生啦，然后请个厨师朋友啦，做一些菜，最后才把这个骗局给揭露了。不过在第4段我们特别注意一下使役动词，第8格前面有一个使役动词，我们看到过去式的 got。 我要复习一下 get someone to do something， 要某人做某事，注意 get someone to do something。同样这句话中间逗点之后 had 我们看到过去式跟后面的 create 做一些菜肴，这地方做个连结，它的使役动词用法是 have someone do something， 直接加动词原形哦。 have 跟 make 经常会替换，所以使役动词还有一个是 make someone do something。 最后一个使役动词 let 让允许 let let someone do something。好，那么当然最后呢，骗局被揭露之后，我们大家都上了很重要的一课了 a lesson。 因为其实网络世界充满着 misinformation 错误的资讯。好，这个充满在最后一段第9格的地方，前面的 be full of 可以画起来，跟它很像，常搞混的是 be filled with filled with be filled with be full of。 所以网络的东西真的不要太相信，我们要有批判性的思考，要记得求证哦。以上是我们今天的内容，我是安娜，我们下次见。
That's it for today, everybody. Even though this restaurant doesn't exist, I'm sure you can find an acceptable substitute right here in good old Taipei or Taiwan if you're hungry and want to have dinner. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.